And we are live. Thank you guys so much for waiting. I know we're a little bit late by about 2 minutes, but we just had some technical difficulties. Hopefully you guys can hear me out on the stream. If you can't, let me know. Obviously, I'll be monitoring this thing like crazy. But now I'm going to take a sigh of relief. We are on. We're live, and I think I still need to get somebody to play the techie so I can relax back here. I probably wouldn't relax. I would just start like micromanaging them. No, it's that court over there. Thank you guys for watching the Fight Game Podcast, and I'm really excited today. We have somebody that, you want to talk about an OG in the game. We've got an OG in the game. We've had other OGs in the game, and they pointed us to this guy's direction. So obviously he's well respected and, continuing to do great work in the combat space, both the combat arts, I guess that's right, the combat arts and the combat sports. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you guys to Chad LeBrun.
Thank you.
And did I say that right? Is it LeBrun or is it LeBrun? Or
LeBrun, that sounds great.
LeBrun is good?
Yep, that's perfect.
Cool.
Thank you.
So, and of course, I am tag teaming here with my partner, Crew Paul.
What's up, guys?
All right, and guys, we're good to go. So let's get this thing started. I'm just going to check one thing. Yes, right on. Can hear left ear not right? Oh, that sucks. I knew there.
We're transmitting in mono.
Is it really a mono signal? I don't want to like mess with it because let me see. You guys can watch me panic over here. Let's see.
Yeah, this is the frenzy that happens like that everybody doesn't see on the stream. Like 5 minutes before, this is what happens. Leo's like panicking on behind the desk here, and just like he's flipping switches, turning knobs, punching keys.
Oh my gosh! All right, guys, listen. Let's handle the 1 year thing for now. I don't even want to mess with it right now. I got so many things. Chad was saying when he came in, he was like, "Man, you got a lot of equipment." I'm like, "Yeah, I got a lot." That means a lot of problems. It's like having a lot of wives or kids or something. It's just like, oh, there's so much to deal with.
Yeah.
Just one man. But yeah, so let's get this show started. Chad, let me ask you. Let's start off with this. How did you get started in the martial arts?
Well, growing up, my dad left when I was real young, probably about 12, and so my mom is awesome, but I never really had anybody around to show me what it was, to be a man, how to act, and I got picked on a lot growing up. I had bad acne growing up,
Me too.
So that didn't help out, and so anyways, a lot of people had it a lot worse than I did. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But I grew up in an area where there was a lot of fights, and you would get picked on a lot. So I was always wanting to learn self-defense, like real self-defense, like what's going to work in a real situation. So I became obsessed about that, and just like I said, growing up, it's not something I don't look at as a positive thing, but we grew up in a bad area where there was fights. Now I look at it as work-related experience, so that's a good thing.
I do like that. That is pretty awesome.
But I started boxing. I would see fights, and you always see guys that have good hands, and I thought boxers had the best hands. Boxing and wrestling, to me, are two of the oldest martial arts.
Right.
We don't really think of them as martial arts in our culture, but we don't teach the martial part, but we just teach the sport of it. And I think, you put two guys in a room and they can just throw hands, that boxers, just the defense and it's the best. And then you add in the Thai boxing with the clinch, the elbows, the knees. I think it's a really great, thing for striking. Now, that being said, then also wrestling, I think being able to control the distance. The good thing about wrestling is you can take the fight to the ground, you can keep it standing up. And there'll be times you would want to do one or the other. And then on the ground, it's all Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
I love Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Like I was telling your daughter, I think it's a superpower. It's one of the few arts where a smaller trained person can defeat a larger, less trained person.
I loved it when he said that. When Chad came in, like a great guest, he came in early so we could set up, get to know each other, everything. I introduced him, to daughter, wife, and oh yeah, by the way, she started jujitsu last year, and the first thing out of his mouth is, oh, that's awesome, that's a superpower, and you could see her eyes light up. Mind you, when she started at 4 years old, it was easy to get her to go to go to class and everything. But now that she's getting older, it's harder because there's other things, school and all this other stuff she wants to do. And but when you said superpower, I was like, oh, that was something he unlocked. There's words can unlock certain things in people.
Yeah.
And I think if I go that route of it's a superpower,
You have to develop your superpower.
yeah, I think she's gonna stick with it if she thinks of it that way.
Yeah.
And I have a 9-year-old daughter, so and she is training, and I always tell people I don't want to be that Tiger Woods dad, where for every Tiger Woods there's a million kids that hate golf, right? Because they were forced to do it.
Yeah.
So we'll do like little sessions, me and her, and it's kind of like some good daddy-daughter time, and we have fun, and you want to keep her into it, because the moment you quit, that's when your progress stops.
Absolutely.
So for me, and I always tell people, man, whether you're training a group of kids or a group of operators, if they have fun, they're going to do it more, like they are, So you have to really balance that, because if you don't like it, you're done. If it's a mandatory thing, you'll do it, but then that's it. But if you enjoy doing it, you're going to do it more often. And that's a huge important thing. Like, if you're an operator and people that go out and shoot, they do shooting tournaments, those are the guys that are good. If you're in combatives, the guys that go and they train at the jiu-jitsu school down the road, those are the guys that you don't want to grab, the guys that grew up wrestling, right?
Really don't.
But there's no, and the big misconception I always tell people, there's no, week-long course. You don't go to, say, a shooting course. You don't go there and check a box for gunfighting for 5 years.
Right.
It's a perishable skill.
Absolutely.
Distance, timing, knowing the technique is one thing. I always tell people boxing, it's 4 strikes. It's 4 punches, jab, cross, hook, uppercut. Different ways to do them, but it's 4 punches. But
Absolutely.
it takes years to master the footwork, the distance, the timing.
Timing.
Yeah.
And, I always tell people there's 2 parts to learning. There's technique and there's timing. Technique is drilling. Drill, drill, drill. When you think you have it, drill some more.
Yep.
But you got to make the drills to where they're drilling, but they don't know they're drilling. You're keeping it fresh. And then the timing, that's the sparring. So if you're a Thai boxer, it's sparring, striking.
Absolutely.
If you're a wrestler, it's doing takedowns. The timing is where you learn, like, to put it together, to when to do it. If you do judo, everybody knows osotogari, but how many osotogaris do you get when you compete?
Right.
Like, so if you're not getting them when you compete, there's little details in the setup that you might not be getting.
Absolutely.
So that's the difference. It's being able to do the move in a real situation with a resisting person.
What do you think about like nowadays? When you started, it was called Vale Tudo.
Yeah.
Back in the day, it wasn't MMA. They didn't have that name just yet. It was, but it was happening, and people were kind of bringing into it what they had, which was the Brazilian guys bringing the Brazilian jiu-jitsu, the Thai guys, the boxing, the wrestling, all the karate, and add all the traditional martial arts in there. They were all trying to bring in there and see what works from a very fractured sense, like not the mixed part, but just mix them together to have them fight each other, but don't have a fighter that's like very well versed in all, almost like a Tao of Jeet Kune Do style of of thought. But that's you came in at like just the right time when everything was starting to change, like the old paradigm of martial arts was changing, and you were seeing the truth.
Well,
can you talk about that?
Yeah, so I remember I would work, all through college and growing up. We didn't have much money, so I always had a job since I was 15. And when I was 17, I was lifting in this gym, and this guy owned the bar downtown, and he said, hey, you want to come work security? And I'm like, cool. He thought I was 18, so I was only 17. So I'm 17 years old, throwing people out of the bar. And,
That's awesome.
I thought it was awesome. But there was a guy there, and this is back when Taekwondo and karate were the big thing.
Right.
And but once again, I was always obsessed with real self-defense. And there was a guy there. He's a sweetheart of a guy. He was a really nice guy, but he was like national ranked Taekwondo guy. And as a party trick, he would kick a beer bottle off someone's head. It looked really cool, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But every time we were fighting in the parking lot, he was in the kitchen hiding, right? Because
Damn.
but you have to test this and think, well, what works? And then there's, well, what works against one guy? Well, what works against three guys? You know what I mean? And but anyways, coming up, that's when I liked the boxing and the wrestling, and that's what I would do. And then when the first UFC came out, I really didn't like traditional martial arts because all that I knew was Taekwondo and karate. So I said, man, that's traditional martial arts. It doesn't really work. But then you see the first UFC in like 93 or 94, I think it was. And I said, man, that's looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, how'd that little skinny guy do that? So, and like I said, I was mainly a striker, boxer. And then back then, you'd have to get the VHS tapes, and you know the Gracies came out with like a little series, and we would watch them.
The Gracie Challenge series.
Yeah, the Gracie Challenge. But then they would have techniques, and we would watch them and try to do them. And that's all we had. I had a good buddy. He was a bodyguard for one of the princes of Saudi Arabia. This was pre 9/11.
Money, 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 money.
Yeah. So, and I think it was from Abu Dhabi. But anyways, we would train together, and you know, and he had a buddy, a guy named Steve Blackman, who was actually a WWE wrestler.
We know Steve.
Steve's a good friend of mine. He used to come down and train with me. Biggest natural dude you'd ever seen, right? Really nice guy. But anyways, so we got into doing that, and then like my first two fights, I don't even think we wore gloves back then, but that's when it was style versus style, and you could headbutt, you could football kick, and I did it because it was a great testing ground. Minus, like I always tell people, there's two parts to the fight. There's what happens before the first punch is thrown, and then there's what happens after. So what happens before is what we think of as combatives. You know, that's keeping your hands up, arms crossed, or, you know, hitting the guy, you know, situational awareness, whatever. After, well, the better you are at boxing, Thai boxing, wrestling, and jiu-jitsu, the better you're going to fare in that fight.
Absolutely.
That's what I feel. But I think you got to be good at both. Because,
100%.
like for me, I always tell people, man, I'm not a cocky guy. I'm very humble. I'm confident because I feel I've trained with good people. But I get my butt kicked just like anybody else. Like, I walk out that door, somebody hits me in the head with a 2x4. That's a good head start, right?
Yeah.
So, and being cocky.
Got it. I'll put the 2x4 in my truck when I get out of here.
You know, being cocky is a weakness because there's always somebody better. You know, I always tell people, like, and I'm not talking about sport. I'm talking about one person's leaving this room, one person's not. If people got enough time and money, they can get you. Like, you know, you just don't want to be on their radar.
Yes.
But the reality is this, you know, anybody that thinks they're invincible, that's not true, you know. It's kind of like when you're training with somebody and they say, well, I'm not going to go to the ground, so why train the ground?
Well, trust me, it's coming.
That's kind of a naive statement.
That's
you
it.
know
That's just
I mean?
pure ignorance.
That's like the people that say, well, you should have shot the guy in the leg. Then you don't know what you're talking about.
Have no clue.
You have no clue. So, but anyways, and so I got my blue belt. I was in college. I graduated college, and this was like in 96. And a guy named Jacare Cavalcante was moving over from Rio de Janeiro. And most of these guys will know, but if they don't, Jacare was the head coach of Alliance, probably won more world championships than anybody. Super. I love Jacare so much. And his wife, Elaine, they're all great people. So I didn't know anybody. And I grew up in Woodbridge. And like I said, I needed to get out of there because there was nothing good happening.
I see.
So,
we call it Hoodbridge here in the DMV.
We used to call it that too. I know. and I grew up on the Route 1 where there is good areas. But where I grew up, it was all pawn dealerships, check cashing places, and, you know, used car places. So anyways, I graduated. And I said, where do I go? And you could go to the West Coast. There was jiu-jitsu out there.
Absolutely.
And then Jacare came over, and I said, man, I'm going to go to Atlanta. And then my friends are like, you don't know anybody. I said, man, that's where the best is. And I've always known if you want to be the best, you got to train with the best.
Absolutely.
There's different levels to the game. So I've always sought out. I wanted to be a small fish in a big pond.
Around how old were you at that time?
Probably about 24, 25.
Man, good age.
Yeah. So, you know, and like I said, and I was always I guess I did good in fights, but I knew I wasn't a good fighter. Like, I knew I was just a strong, aggressive guy, right? But I knew I didn't have any technique. So I wanted to get better at that.
I was going to say, I saw a submission of yours from back, I think it was from your Atlanta days. You got a guy in an Americana. You let him go from it, and then you repositioned yourself and got the Americana again, and really cranked it on him. And I was like, oh, that guy's gonna tap from that one. I can see that now.
Yeah.
But
What's funny is that was in Atlanta.
okay.
And I had Henzo and Jacare in my
Oh,
corner.
awesome.
And
Okay.
and this is back when nobody knew anything.
Right.
And
You
I
were fighting in a
remember-
ring.
Yeah, and I remember looking at the guy going, man, what is this guy going to do to me
Yeah.
that these guys haven't? You
Absolutely.
know?
I mean-
So, yeah, it was a great time. But yeah, but I'm going to tell you, so I was always obsessed with real fighting.
Yeah.
I didn't fight for belts or anything.
Sure.
I didn't care. It was a great testing ground.
Yeah.
And that was a great example. I remember they were raising my hand and I looked over and the dude's in the corner and he's doing this. And I'm like, God dang it. I just ripped that guy's shoulder out and he's still able to use his arm.
Yeah.
So what's funny is I always tell people there's only two ways to end a real fight. Mine is stabbing, shooting, blowing the guy up. You knock him unconscious,
Yep.
or you strangle him unconscious.
Yep.
And that's why I don't like doing arm bars or heel hooks in a real situation because a tough guy, he'll gut it out.
Yeah.
He'll feel that pain in the morning,
Yeah.
but he's not feeling it now. So
Out of curiosity, and because when you brought up, there are people that can tough certain submissions out. Did you see the? I believe it was Metamoris when it might not have been Metamoris when Eddie Bravo rematched
Yes.
Hoyler Gracie,
Yeah.
and he had him in that calf slicer
Yeah.
move that he had. And everybody that the guys that were doing the announcing and the color commentary, they were like, "That's a really painful position the Hoyler's in," but he's and deadpan.
Dude, that's just pure 99.9% of people probably would have tapped from that.
Yeah.
But he's like, I'm not tapping.
Yeah, he was like, I'm not tapping. And, you like you said, you are going to run into guys that are going to do that. So in a real fight,
Yeah.
yes, the only way to get them is
and
if
people don't realize the adrenaline, it takes over. And your body, the human body is very resilient. Like, you stab somebody, they don't disappear.
Yeah.
You shoot somebody, they can still come at you and do
Yep.
a lot of damage. So I think, when you think of the sport, which I love,
Sure.
and then you think of the real combatives, like one person's going to leave this room and one person's not, there is different in your tactics because it's not a sport. There isn't plush mats. This person wants to violently hurt you.
Right.
So, I always tell people, like, you don't have to like violence, but you need to have a relationship with it. Like, because the first time you meet, it's overwhelming. So to be able to spar, to be able to grapple, it introduces you to it. You start to build a relationship with it.
Yeah.
And so if you do actually have to defend yourself, it's not the first time. But even then, I always tell my students, at my school, I don't make people compete. I don't really. Everyone comes in with different goals. Like,
Sure.
I'm a self-defense guy. Some people like the sport of it. Some people just want to be able to watch the UFC and know what's going on. Some people want to come in and just hang out for a couple hours.
Sure.
So everyone is on a different path.
Absolutely.
So I try to accommodate the path that they're on.
Yeah.
But our school at the lab, it is a self-defense school. You're going to learn how to defend punches because even if you don't want to punch, that guy's going to.
Yeah.
So I think it's an important thing.
It's always better to be a samurai in a garden than a gardener in a battlefield.
There you go. There you go. Exactly. One of the great quotes, and I forget, I always mess up quotes, but a guy had said, he's like, I do self-defense because I love life, not because I want to hurt people.
Right.
I love my life, and I don't want anybody to take it any sooner than it should be.
Absolutely. That's an awesome one too.
Yeah, I
That is
can't
a
take
really
credit
good
or
quote.
nothing, but I do like it,
No, that's
So-
awesome though that your academy actually promotes everybody have their own path. I know that there are some schools that will push towards the competition aspect of it, and there are others that they just want to provide a good atmosphere for people to understand how some of these things work and to get you get your foot in the water of what that is like. Introduce you to that world because I think everybody needs to have a sense of that.
And it's a safe way to do it. Like,
Yes.
and I'll have so I have two main things. I have the lab martial arts, which is for the civilians, and we teach the unarmed portion. And then I have 3 range combatives, which is my military and law enforcement training. And that's where we teach, the combatives with the weapon transitions, different
Now for
things like that.
for that part of it is are civilians allowed to take those classes that you offer?
I
or is
only
that just-
teach military and law enforcement.
Understood.
Now,
Okay.
I have done a couple civilian courses, but for the most part, it's just military and law enforcement. And
Okay.
when I do civilians, it's a group of guys that I know them, I know their character,
Right.
and things like that.
Understood.
So,
Okay.
but what I was saying was, I'll have some of the guys that I train for the combatives, they're operators, and they'll do a jiu-jitsu tournament. And man, they'll be like, because you get that adrenaline,
Yeah.
dump, and people don't understand that,
Yeah.
And I always tell
Excuse
people,
me.
like, I don't think you have to be a fighter to teach fighting, but
Yeah.
I do think it gives you a sense of, like, understanding what it is to walk out there to that adrenaline dump, to where if you've never done it, you don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So, it's one of those things where you're able to communicate. Hey, you could hit 5 5s on the bags, awesome.
Yeah.
But when you get in there, you're gonna get tired.
Yeah.
So here are some things you can do to kind of mitigate that a little
Yeah.
bit. You're still gonna get it though,
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'll have guys that come in and they'll do a grappling tournament and be like, that was the closest thing to being in a gunfight I've ever been in, because
jeez.
you're just
Yeah.
people. Now, how do you get better at that? You do it more often.
Yeah.
I always tell people, like, why I like grappling is this: it's a safe way to get you good at feelers. And I always say feelers react faster than eyesight.
Yes.
So where when you think about fights, like, most of the knockouts are going to come when you're only relying on your eyesight.
Right.
But if I can get a hold of you, I can feel where you're at. Not that I advocate shutting your eyes, but I feel you. And that's why, like, when you see guys on the ground and they're grappling and the guy throws an elbow and everyone's like, oh, that almost landed.
Yeah, that almost landed.
It's because he has his feelers
Yeah.
and he's able to defend much better.
Right.
So, like, when I'm dealing with, like, the military and law enforcement, for them to be out punching people that's not smart,
Yeah.
Nor is that the right thing to do.
Right.
But if I can get my hands on you, I can control you, whether I have to cuff you
Yeah.
or whether I have to disengage and switch to another tool.
Right.
I'm going to be able to do that. And the more you do that in grappling, the easier it is in a real situation.
Now let me ask you this: how do you feel about training with like a blindfold or like having your eyes closed when you roll?
I remember that.
Yeah, I mean, people can do that, and it's not a bad thing, because you do rely on your feelers a lot in grappling. Now, the moment the disengage comes, you're like, hey, where'd the guy go?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yes, when you're disengaged, definitely open your eyes. Let's figure out where we're at, so we're not just like feeling around.
But I always use this example with people. I say, man, it's like throwing somebody in a lake that doesn't know how to swim. What's going to happen?
They're going to drown.
They're going to die. They're going to flare around. They're going to try to swim, but they don't know what they're doing.
Yep.
And then they're going to succumb and they're going to drown.
Yep.
But if somebody throws you in a lake, you're going to swim out.
Yeah.
So, and think about this. You're swimming out. The coolest thing in the world's going on the shore. You're like, oh, man, check that out. That's awesome. You're going to acknowledge that. But if you're drowning,
You don't know
gonna see
anything
that?
about what's happening
Exactly.
outside of where your
So,
situation is.
if you're an operator and you enter a room and somebody grabs you, or you try to cuff them and they swing at you and start punching you and grabbing you, if you don't know how to swim per se, that person, you're not going to acknowledge the guy coming out of that door right there
Yeah.
with a weapon. So the more I can get you to relax, the better decisions you're going to make. Right?
That's an amazing method.
So
that's cool.
That's how I kind of look at it, and that's my little part. Like, these guys have the hard job. These are the these are the tough guys. But if I can get them, and my niche is where you touch them or they touch you. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, it's good for me to know the other stuff. Plus, it's just fun to learn.
Yeah,
But
I
know,
bet.
and it puts me, like we were talking, it puts me in their environment of, hey, these are the limitations of having a kit on. Or, hey, these are the things that you legally are allowed to do or aren't allowed to do.
And by kit, Chad's talking about all the gear that you see all the operators wearing. I mean, like, I'm at fighting with, all the gear and your weapons and everything is different from fighting with, what a shirt and some jeans on or something.
Yeah.
It's a completely different scenario. I mean, your range of motion is different. Like, attack angles are different. Everything is different.
Yeah,
So
and you have to, you have to kind of keep it real, as they say, like, why am I doing this? And we were talking earlier, and, I've been, working in that community for about 18 years. And when I first got in there, it was called DTs, Defensive Tactics. And the DT instructor, he didn't really do much with shooting. He didn't do much with CQB. So they were overlapping and they were contradicting, to where one guy would have you stand one way, one guy would have you stand another way.
Yeah.
So I said, hey, I need to know how you guys are shoot. I need to shoot. I need to do the CQB. I need to know where do you put your right foot when you enter a corner fed room. Like, I need to know this stuff, because to me, everything y'all do is very technical. But when it came to fighting, it was like, jump on the guy, you know, and you put 4 guys on a guy, you're eventually going to get him.
Yeah.
But what if you only needed 2 people and it took 30 seconds as opposed to 2 minutes? Because a lot can go wrong in a minute and a half.
110%.
So, you know, we've been doing this for about, you know, like I said, almost 20 years now. So we have a pretty good grasp of it. And every situation, like, so we'll teach a kit course for operators, which is more assaulter based, 5 guys dump into a room. But then we'll teach an escape and evade class where, okay, maybe you're overseas, but you don't have a weapon. Or if you do, it's an improvised weapon, and you don't have backup. And you know what? You might not even want to you might not want the local people to come. You got to get out of there.
Right.
So how are you going to do that? So when some of it is the same, but, you know, we always say mission drives tactics. And so it depends. What is my mission? Is it just to get home? Is it to get this guy in cuffs? What am I trying to do? But I'm getting ahead here.
So we're seeing, Chad, we're seeing a lot of in your industry, we're seeing a lot more interest in your industry from places like, believe it or not, police forces that would just be like, no, training's fine, or this like low level training. And now we're starting to see these guys learning jujitsu on top of all the other stuff that they're doing. How's business for you right now, between owning the lab and 3-range combatives? Have you been seeing an uptick in the last few years?
I've been doing it for a long time, so you know, we stay pretty steady busy. But yeah, I think more people are getting it. And like I was talking to you, I was saying, you know, back in the old days, people didn't really, well, you know, they would think, I always tell people there's like two realms of combatives instructors. Like I said, you got the guy that he's like a world champion in what he does, and he's really good at what he does. He trains 8 hours a day, but he doesn't understand your tactics. He doesn't understand your SOPs. He doesn't understand the limitations of your gear.
Right.
And that's bad. And then you got this side where this guy's normally a little heavy, and every answer for him is a throat punch and a groin kick, you know, and that's not how it goes down either.
So
right?
so Krav Maga basically.
Yeah. Like I said, I like to speak positive about everything. And everything.
It's Master Ken.
Master Ken. Okay, we'll go with that.
Ken.
Yeah, you know, it's like I'm gonna brachial strike the guy, and the guy. So my thing is this: like, I feel so lucky to come from where I came from, to being able to do what I do and help people. So I love the lab. I love all those guys there. And but you know, the lab, they're I always tell people, I was talking to you, I said, I can guarantee you probably can cut down 90% on ever having to defend yourself in a fight if you do these 3 things. Yeah. Don't join a gang, don't sell drugs, and don't be out after midnight. If you do those, you're probably going to be okay.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, the other people that I work with, the fact that they're there, they have greatly increased the chances that they might need this to save their life one day, right? So I take great pride in that, and I take that seriously. I can't sleep at night knowing they're not learning realistic and practical self-defense. So for me, combatives are high percentage techniques with a low percentage. If I mess up, I don't put myself in a worse spot. And I'll give you an example. Ronda Rousey, she is great at that head and arm throw. She does it all the time. She's done it at the highest levels of judo, of MMA.
Olympic competition.
I wouldn't teach that to a beginner, because if you miss that, where does the person end up?
They're on your back.
They're on your back.
Right.
So would I feel comfortable having her do it? Sure. But you have to look at who are you teaching, and the guys that I teach, they are awesome people. They are, awesome attitudes. They are tough as nails, cardio for days, but they have to be masters of everything. Yeah. So, you know, they can't spend 8 hours trying to master a certain kick. Yeah. Or a certain, thing. Now, if they do, awesome. Yeah. But you also got to remember, if I got 12 people, you're going to have a couple studs that they take it seriously. They grapple. They go to the Thai boxing gym. But I need to get the guy that is the most unathletic, the most not good in combatives. I need to get him to be able to defend himself for 15 to 30 seconds so his buddies can do what they need to do and then come back and help that person. And I need to get him to be able to protect himself. That is for me, doing this for a long time. And we were talking about my buddy Mike Moses is a great guy, very knowledgeable martial artist in all realms. And he came down to my school one day, and in the old days, I ran a hardcore fight gym. And I couldn't pay my electric bill. You've heard this story a gazillion times from people. So I was like, well, how do I get better at this? I know we have a good product. And Mike came down and he said, man, do you like your school? I said, man, I love my school. I love the guys. He goes, well, then keep it how it is. But you run it like a fight gym. You weed out the weak. And I never thought of it that way. That's how I was raised. You want to get better? Hey, if you want to fight, you got to get better. That's just how it was back then.
So what did that mean exactly? Because I was going to ask you about when you first started the lab.
Yeah, so basically when he said that, something clicked. And I thought, he's right. Like, who needs the martial arts more, the strong or the weak? You know what I mean?
Right, the weak.
Like, the weak do. It's like we were talking about Second Amendment. Man, there were no guns. We'd be kings, the people that are good at fighting. But I'm doing it. I'm doing it for the people that can't defend themselves. Sometimes that pistol is their best tool. Now, you need training with it.
Right.
But that's for them, So when Mike said that, something clicked. And it wasn't about money. It was, you're right. There are people that they come into my school now, I weed them out because it is too hard. So I didn't water it down. I toned it down. And I made more structured curriculums where we have a foundations class and then we have our regular class where we do a lot more sparring. And we have classes where you don't ever have to get punched in the face. And then we have classes where, hey, if you're going to be a fighter, you're going to have to
get punched in the face.
We're going to go hard, right? Because I always will have a soft spot because that was me. I was the fighter. And, like I said, I got my blue belt from Jacare. And then me and my good buddy Paul, we moved up to New York. That's where he was from. And we trained with Henzo, Matt, John Donaher, all those guys. Got my purple belt there. Very and then cool. I remember, and everyone has that epiphany. You got to remember, I was 4-0 as a professional fighter, but man, I was living in someone's basement in Long Island, and this was like in 2000, 2001. I was $10,000 in credit card debt. I was a finance major. I had a degree, and I'm like, man, it's time to give up the dream. Nobody, it was a great testing ground, and then your roots bring you back home. So that's when I moved back home. And I got my brown and my black belt from Leo Dalla and Lord Irvin.
Oh, very cool.
And I've been here for, ever since for about 20 years. But it was a great time back then because, when I was at Jacare's, this was back. So there was a guy that trained there. He played NHL hockey. And he was going through a divorce with his wife, and he met this new girl, and this new lady was like, I don't want to live in the house you lived in your ex-wife with. So he had this house inside. It was 285, so it would be inside the Beltway, really rich area. It was on 3 acres. It was a rundown house, but it literally had lighted tennis courts, swimming pool. I mean, it was a mansion to us, right?
Yeah.
So, and this guy was a great guy, and he's like, man, I got to rent this house out, and I don't want to rent it to anybody. Jacare, you can just let your fighters live there.
Oh, man.
So, yeah. So it was me, Paul, Bull Shaw, we all lived, and my buddy Felipe Zicraw, who has a school in Tallahassee now, and we all lived there. We had a big mat space. The living room, there was no furniture. It was just a mat, right? So
this is what happens when you let fighters
dude, this was the Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah, this was
Ultimate Fighter 1.0.
This was in 97, and this is when so guys would come over from Brazil, and we just thought they were young kids. It was Lauzino, Comprido, Felipe Costa. They would come over and they would stay with us, and it was just a great time. Being a blue belt is the best because you don't have any pressure. You know what I mean?
You're just a blue belt.
You just love
You're
it.
above the fray of the white belt, but you don't have to be under the pressure of the purple and brown belt.
So it was awesome. And like I said, those guys, when I moved to Atlanta, I bartended, worked the door, saved up some money. I moved down there. I immediately had 50 friends. You know, everybody welcomed me in, and it was just a great time. You meet so many cool people, and that's where we got our start. Like our first fight, it was like an old abandoned warehouse. It was like the old Kickboxer movie.
Yeah.
Like I really think they had to run generators to get the lights working.
That's
And there was a cage in the middle. And this was back, Maurice Smith was there. My buddy fought Thomas Denny. It was crazy. They would serve
Good old
beer.
Maurice Smith.
Yeah, and that was our first fight. And it was illegal in Atlanta. So I think they did it as like a exhibition,
right?
or
Yeah,
something
it's
like
always an
that. Like
exhibition
even
match.
in New York,
That's
they were
the
called
loophole.
Yeah.
they were called grappling exhibitions. When me and Matt fought on the main card, and it was a grappling exhibition, and it was right before, so then when I moved up to New York, Matt Serra's a great guy. You know, those guys all welcomed us in, and I can remember this was the old days. Dana White would scout the talent, and Dana White came to Henzo's. Henzo introduced me and Matt, and Dana watched me and Matt roll for like 20 minutes. And Matt beat me up for 20 minutes. You know, he's phenomenal. And they had signed Matt and Ricardo to a 3-fight deal. And, you know, at Henzo's, there's a hierarchy, which I like.
Yeah.
I was in the middle hierarchy. You had, you know, Matt, his brother Nick, Ricardo. There was guys that were above, and those were the guys that got the turn.
Yeah.
You know, because some people say, man, what if you would have stayed? Like for me, I loved that time. I don't regret it. As a matter of fact, it was awesome. It was an education.
I was gonna say,
But-
it wasn't necessarily about getting up in the ranks. It was just the
Didn't care.
experience of it all.
And like I said, I really only cared about testing. That was back in the day when. Oh, and by the way, if the people like you said you watch the fights, Speedos were cool back in the day. You gotta remember that, right? So don't make fun of my Speedos, man. But
And you didn't have the beard.
No,
Like,
you didn't
that
have a
was weird
beard.
because I was like,
yeah,
Dude, his beard game is on point, bro.
it really is. But the guy that was in the video, I was like, man, I can't tell if that
No,
really is.
you know,
Chad.
you do look really different with the beard and without the beard. Is the beard giving you power? Is that what that's about?
man. Listen, my wife would say no. She's not a big fan, but my daughter loves it.
Okay.
And you know, one day I was like, Kylie, because what happens is about once a year it gets in the way.
Yeah.
I literally have to tap because the lapel is pulled
it's just
over it.
trying to rip your chin
Yeah,
off.
so this is about a perfect height. But my daughter, I said, Kylie, why do you want me to keep the beard? And I think she wouldn't have a reason. She's like, well, when we have cuddle time, I lay my head on it.
It's like a pillow.
Yeah, she had like a list of reasons. So I'm like, no, I gotta keep the beard.
That's awesome.
Let me ask you this. Let me go back. So I mean, wow, what a cadre of. I mean, I'm talking about Matt. You're talking about. By the way, John Danaher right now. That's like he's flavor right now of the year as far as with him and his Death Squad and what those guys have been able to do. Can you tell me about what it was like to what those guys were like back then, sort of in that phase?
Yeah, it was a great time. And what's funny is because like we called John New Zealand John because he was from New Zealand, and we all knew John was a brilliant. I think I was a blue belt. John and Sean Williams, they were purple belts. I think Matt was a brown belt. I remember when Matt and Rodrigo got their black belt. Like I was there, and I was there when Sean Williams got his black belt. And what's funny was Henzo came up, and I remember he smacked him on the back because that's how we would do it back then. And he goes, now it begins. And I remember going, it begins? You're a black belt.
Yeah.
Now you get it. But it was a great time, and John had actually gotten me a job working security because we would go to Ray Longo's during the day, and once again, nobody knew who Ray Longo was. He's a genius when it comes to the striking.
Yeah.
We would go to Ray Longo's during the day for our striking, and then we would take the Long Island Railroad into Henzo's, and we would train at night. And it was a time that can never be replicated. Like a typical night would be 10-minute roll with Henzo, 10-minute roll with Ricardo, 10-minute roll with Matt, 10-minute roll with Nick, and it was just tap, 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 tap.
And
Like
for those of you that aren't that are trying to guess, he is talking about. It sounds like Matt Serra,
Yeah.
John Danaher,
yeah,
Ricardo Almeida,
yep.
and so
These heavyweights and I mean legends in the game.
yeah, these are just like absolute world beaters. They're world beaters and they're beasts.
They're all great people, man. Like, and just the camaraderie afterwards, going out to the Peruvian chicken place and getting something to eat.
That's awesome.
And just, John, he has just a driest, like best sense of humor.
Yeah.
He used to make fun of me. He said my English sucked. He really is.
That's
Like
awesome.
he'll say something. And like I think it, but I don't know how to articulate it.
Yeah.
I'll give you another guy, Matt Thornton's like that from Straight Blast Gym.
Okay.
He's very smart, man. And he'll say something, and I'm like, that's the way that I do it, but I could never articulate it as good as he just did.
Well, I think that's why John right now is getting so much, I guess, press right now, is because it is that ability. I don't have that ability either. That ability to take something so complex, and it's his brain. You can tell. You can see the wheels ticking.
I was gonna ask you about that. Was John Danaher always like that? Where he seems to have this really super intellectual spin on everything that he does. Like he puts a very
But it's not complicated though.
No, it's not. But I mean, but that's the mark of a genius,
He's
right?
very, very. So he's very technical.
Okay.
And there are levels. Like I think I'm technical. He's very, very. The details are but in the details is the most beautiful thing.
Absolutely.
Like just your elbow being here as opposed to here, and knowing, and that's where the feelers come in.
Yeah.
Like so when I was up there, John would teach like 8 hours of privates a day. Like
Oh, I bet he did. 'cause he got
Jeez.
somebody that can-
nobody knew who John was. And when I came home, I would talk about him, and they're like, nah, whatever. I'm like, this guy, you don't understand. He is a genius. Like, I think everyone knows his story. He's going to Columbia for his PhD and, sociology, or I forget, but he's very smart.
Yeah.
But he's also always fascinated with combat. Like, so we would come to work and talk about, because he would work the door, I'd work the door. Hey, well, I threw this guy out, I did it this way. Hey, check this out, I threw this guy out and I did this foot sweep, or, so it was a great time, man. And, Matt too. Matt, man, is so technical. And the way you see him on the podcast,
Yeah.
that's how he is. He is probably one of the nicest people. Henzo the same. Like I said it not too long ago. Like Henzo, the dictionary definition of somebody told me being a gentleman. Like we all think being a gentleman's like this hoity-toity guy.
Yeah.
But being a gentleman is about making everybody around them feel comfortable.
Yes.
And Henzo is the best at that.
Yeah.
Like, that guy has lived life to the fullest.
It seems like
he's
that-
an inspiration.
It's hilarious that you say he's like one of the nicest people out there, and I don't doubt that he is.
Yeah.
But if you watch him and Cesar Gracie roll, it didn't look like a
No.
nice time.
And that's why I think I respect these guys, and I think we were friends because I kind of I respect. They are really nice people.
Yeah.
But we like to fight. We'll
Yeah.
fight. If you want to be a bully or a jerk, okay,
Yeah.
let's do it.
Yeah.
So not now, but in the old days.
Sure. Okay.
And but I think we've all, with age, realized can't really do that nowadays. Laws and morals don't have much to do with each other. Sometimes legally it's not the right thing, but
Right.
morally some people deserve a beating sometimes.
Absolutely.
You just can't be the one to do it no
Yeah.
more. So
That's
anyway.
interesting though.
Hey, I wanna pot something up real quick. This is your buddy Matt recently, okay?
Okay.
Let's see. Make sure that this. I want to make sure that there. Okay. This is your buddy Matt. Not getting any audio, but this is your buddy Matt subduing a drunk guy.
Yeah, it was funny because when I watched this video the first time it went around on the internet, it was like, okay, it's okay. Just are you gonna try and hit me? If you're gonna try and hit me, I'm not gonna let you up. And
This guy's hilarious, dude. This guy, he looks like Matt Serra. You know what I mean? He's got like the badass uniform on, bald head,
tattoos.
tattooed, but he's just getting I mean, he's drunk. You can tell he's drunk, but
Yeah.
he's getting handled. And Matt is just playing. It's like this is
It's
this
a game to Matt.
guys.
right
This
now.
is white belt class right here
Yeah.
against. The guy still.
That guy is in Matt's OODA loop, as we say, and he's not getting out of it. But no, I'm going to tell you, I wasn't there, and I'm going to tell you exactly. I guarantee this is exactly what happened if you talk to Matt. Matt was there with his family. Matt is the sweetest heart person. People come up, sign autograph. As happy as he is, that's how he always is.
Okay.
And he's a nice guy.
Yeah.
But I guarantee a booth or two over, this guy was being disrespectful. He was being a bully. He was being mean to the
Yeah.
waiter. And Matt said something, and
When-
the guy came at Matt, and Matt just defended himself.
That's hilarious because I did read the article that I can't remember which publication it was in, but they were talking about that the guy started to get belligerent with the wait staff, and then he started to get with other customers, and then he started to make a scene, and then they asked him to leave, and they couldn't get him to leave, and then Matt was like, you know what, I've had it. This guy's being too much of a jerk to everybody around me, and if he starts on my family,
Yeah,
that's it.
And if you watch that video, but this is the difference between trained and untrained.
Yeah.
Matt, when the security guard came over, he wasn't a specimen of health. You know, the guy probably has zero training.
Yeah.
And the guy is like, get off of him. And Matt's like, you want me to get off of him? You don't have control of him. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, if I get up, he's going to get up. And if
Yeah.
he tries to hit me, I'm going to have to defend myself
Yeah.
again. But, you know, it's a weird thing. And, you know, that's why I love Matt, though.
Yeah.
Like, because he is a good dude.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you're going to be a bully or you're going to be a jerk, he's going to stand up and do the right moral thing.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's just a really good dude.
This is the type of these are the type of guys that, again, I say it every episode that we have a guy on like Chad. We had Micah last week. It's the same thing. These are the men that need to be out there in the forefront representing manhood, not whatever they bandy in front of us. These guys that either talk tough and are just ego monsters or whatever. These toxic masculinity guys or whatever. No, that's a man. He didn't have to like knock the. He could have easily knocked that guy out. He could have there could have been blood all over the. No, Matt realized the situation. He knew what he knew. He applied it without going overboard. No, you know what I mean? Like that is a man.
He could have hit him with that like knockout overhand that he hit St. Pierre with, and put that dude's lights out for good. Like that.
And just like Chad's talking about, Matt's a great guy.
Yeah,
he's a fantastic human being, but that doesn't mean that he's also weak.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? You don't have to be weak and also a fantastic human being, right?
Yeah, you don't have to be. Yeah, exactly.
Like Matt, because he is trained, he was able to handle that really good. Yeah. And as far as I know, he didn't get in no trouble legally. But the flip side is, so like I said, that's the difference between sport and real fighting. So I remember I had a buddy. He was working the door one night, and he looked out in the parking lot, and there was a guy beating the crap out of this girl. Whoa. So he goes out there, wants to do the right thing, grabs the guy. The guy turns around, tries to fight him. So my buddy knocked him down, and the cops came. Well, it was a domestic, and she ends up taking her husband's side.
Of course.
So this guy got his wages garnished. He got arrested. It's a weird thing, because like I said, morals and laws, I have my moral compass is above the certain laws.
Right.
But then again, there's also certain laws that probably they're not morally right, but they are the laws, and you have to follow them. I always tell people there's 3 parts to a fight. There's the fight with your mind about what's about to happen, right? And people deal with that differently. Like you see somebody peacock up, and you could tell he's scared because he's trying to hype himself into it, right? And it's the calm guy that's like, okay, we're going to fight. You're like, well, this guy's not even worried, So, and then there's
that's when you change your mind and turn the other direction. And
but then there's the physical fight, all right? And then there's the legal fight.
Oh, boy.
And the last one is the hardest. So there's a lot of people, and most people that do this, they're the first to press charges. Yeah. Right? And it doesn't matter.
No honor.
No honor. But it's just so in the society that we live in, and, I talk with my wife about this, like, it's Virginia. I have a concealed carry. I'm carrying, but the last thing I ever want to do is bring that pistol out.
And use it,
Because imagine me having to do that going to court and the lawyer finding out what I do for a living. Yeah. Like, they're going to think I'm a superhero and that I can ricochet bullets. And I know that's not the case. I get my butt kicked like anybody else. So you always constantly have to think of that. And that will make you hesitate. And that hesitation
is going to get you killed.
Can get you hurt.
Or hurt.
So, and that's why, so I have this thing called Operation Blue Belt. And it's kind of like, they got the Blue Life Matters thing. So it would be like a blue belt with the American flag. And what I want to do is, because I'm used to training like elite, high-level teams. But then those guys, man, they are coming in so hard, so fast. They rarely need the hands-on stuff. They do, But compared to the average police officer that's making a stop 20 miles from anybody helping them, they need it the most.
Yeah.
And they get the least amount of training.
Is that right?
So
Yeah,
they get
oh,
the
yeah.
least.
I didn't
They shoot
realize that about law
look, I
enforcement.
like to shoot, and I've been shooting for almost 20 years now, and I get to shoot with the Gracies of shooting. So I'm like, I got to take advantage of that, and it's something I enjoy doing. I can be like a blue belt again, you know. But I've been doing it in a long time, and an average police officer will go out shoot 1,000 rounds in an afternoon. They don't shoot 100 rounds in a year. Like, it's a perishable skill. So, and these are decent, good people, but they're scared and they don't have the proper training. And when you don't have that, you make mistakes. So Operation Blue Belt is a course designed to get everybody within a year to a blue belt level. So I come in for a week, we teach the basic 34 moves, and then you get a curriculum of, this is what I want you doing for the rest of the year. You don't have to be a black belt. You don't have to be a crew. Like, it'd be great. Yeah. But if you can just get to a decent level, the average person, you see video after video of police officers that know how to do jiu-jitsu, able to handle a situation.
Yeah. Yep.
And then you see other ones, like, I'm a civilian. I don't want to see a cop shooting a guy that's unarmed running away from him. Like, we all need to stand up and say that's wrong.
Right.
But then again, 95% of the time, you're like, what did you expect that cop to do? That guy had a gun.
Right. Yeah.
Like, do you realize action is faster than reaction? Mm-hmm. I have many sayings, but one thing I say is everything works better after you punch the guy in the face, right? Like, legally wrong. But if you want to win the fight, you hit first.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you have you started?
But a cop can't do that.
Yeah,
have you started that program yet?
Yeah, so it's a great program because, and I'll give you an example. So a lot of the people that I work with, they have funding, they're able to hire somebody like me. But a lot of the lower level police departments, they either don't have funding. Like, I went to my local police department and, I said, hey, I live in a community. I'd like to give back. I'd like to offer you guys a week-long course for free.
Wow.
Like, and I make pretty good money when I teach a week-long course. And I said, I'd like to offer just because I live here.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, we can't. You're not DCGS certified.
Oh, boy.
And I'm like,
come on.
I'm like, you guys should be 3-range combative certified. Like, but I get it. The culture's changing. Like I said, like, we've been shooting and grappling for 18 years. You got guys like Tim Kennedy now, Jocko, who are legit dudes. And they're just saying the same thing we've been saying for 18 years. And these guys are legit operators.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
man, grapple. It makes you better at everything. But you got to keep it real. Like, so, for instance, and you get into the whole sport
versus
jiu-jitsu.
yeah.
I'm gonna squash it with this. The reality is this. I am a self-defense guy. But you want to put Leonardo Lowe in a street fight, I think he'll do okay. Yeah. You want to put Keenan Cornelius in a street fight, I think he'll do okay.
Yeah.
My point is this: if you have a sense, minus weapons, minus somebody.
Sure.
And when people go, but I'll give you an example. When I first moved home from Henzo's, remember the rolls I was telling you about? My neck was like a piece of steel. Like, I could roll for an hour, right? And I come home and I'm looking for training partners because nobody knew what jiu-jitsu was. I was a purple belt. I had just gotten my purple belt. I knew I had a lot more to learn, right? But I had been training with the elite for a long time. So anyways, I'm asking around and my buddy's like, hey man, there's this guy, he's a really good fighter. And I'm like, well, how? Like, is he like just a tough street fighter?
Yeah.
Or, because you're either trained or untrained, Right. So, no, this guy's a black belt in karate, I said, okay, cool, man. Right. Bring him in. So the guy comes in and he has his black belt, smells like cigarettes and like, gold chains on. And I'm talking to him and he was very arrogant, and I was like, I'm just a purple belt, man, So I'm like, hey, well, let's spar. I said, but what do you do if you go to the ground? He goes, I bite. I go, oh, snap, you bite. Like, I go,
okay.
Like, this was back when, like, remember that show Punked with Ashton Kutcher?
Yes,
yeah.
I thought I was being punked,
You
right?
were punked, bro.
I was waiting for Ashton to come out. But, so I said, you bite. I said, okay, that's it. That's it. That's all I need.
Is it now?
He, like, tightens his gi up. And I said, okay. I said, let's spar. And I said, we'll start standing. If I take you down, you
keep it
bite
going.
me, and I'll tap, and I'll assume you ate me or whatever.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Fight's over.
So, yeah. So we start standing up, exchange a couple punches. I keep my distance, do a couple kicks, boom, shoot in, take the guy down. I go to put shoulder pressure, passes guard, got shoulder pressure. He's like this. like a rabid dog trying to bite me. I'm like going, is this for real?
Wow.
Put him in Ezekiel. Guy taps, get back up, fixes his gi. This goes on 3, 4, 5 times.
He kept going.
He kept going.
Jeez.
And I said, brother, I said, listen, I said, you got to learn some grappling.
Yeah.
I said, you can't just, this is back in the day. Like I said, when I fought, you know, jiu-jitsu, everybody would yell. It was art style versus style.
Yeah.
But then you get a guy, so like then the Militich camp, who I love, Pat Militich, and they were the first to be like, they weren't the best grapplers and they weren't the best strikers, meaning they were good, but they weren't Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champions, and they weren't like, you know,
Golden Gloves
K1
or like, you know,
champs.
K1. Yeah.
They were good at both. So, and that was, I think, for me, that was something I had because I did box before. But everybody thought of me as a jiu-jitsu guy.
Yeah.
But, you know, my thought process is in self-defense.
Yeah. Okay.
Meaning this, somebody comes at me. One, I'm going to try to create space. I'm going to get to a tool. If I don't have a pistol, I'm going to get to a blade. Oh, sorry. If I don't have a blade, I'm going to use my hands.
Yep.
I'm going to keep it standing. If they grab me, I want to use my grappling to keep them off to be able to switch and get to something else.
Right.
If they take me down, I want to end up on top.
Okay.
If I mess up and they were a D1 wrestler that turned into a meth head or whatever, and they take me down, I can't ask them to get off of me. I got to be able to fight off my back.
Absolutely.
So, you know, I always tell people, like, the last thing I want to do is go to the ground. But that being said, it would be hard for somebody to take me down and keep me there. Now, there are people that can, but they're really good world champion people.
Yeah.
You know, like the average guy's not going to. So you want to get as well-rounded as possible. And I look at everything. I look at shooting as a martial art. I look at my edge weapons as a martial art because there's a lot of technique in it. And everything at a high level is very technical.
100%.
So now we start blending them.
Have you watched the John Wick movies?
Yes.
Are you into them?
They're entertaining. Look, I went and saw Endgame the other night. I'm like, man, that was awesome. Like, you know, a lot of those movies, like, they're not realistic at all. But, like, I have a buddy, he choreographs movie fights. But he's a legit fighter himself. But when he does movie fights, everything has to look loopy.
A little bit
Everything
more
has
flashy.
to look a little flashy.
Yeah.
But it's not real. But the problem is the public gets the misconception that
That's what it's
I'm
supposed to
just
look like.
going to snap Jason Bourne the guy.
Yeah.
Well, here's the good news though for you in your industry, thanks to John Wick movies, where you know it's a hell of a lot more realistic than somebody shooting, you know, say a handgun 30 million times, not running out of rounds.
Like The Walking Dead.
Like The
I was
Walking
gonna say,
Dead.
Coach, do you remember any of the old school John Woo movies with like Chow Yun Fat?
Oh, come
Did you ever
on.
watch any of those?
That was so unrealistic.
Like The Hunter.
They were awesome, but
Oh, they were amazing. You're talking about movies where like Chow Yun Fat would unload like 2 clips on a gun in each hand, unload all the bullets on one dude.
yeah.
Really?
And then move on to another
Terrible.
person.
It's
I was
terrible.
like,
Well,
But-
it's kind of like multiple attackers. Like I always tell people, like multiple attackers doesn't go down like it does. Like you come at me, I punch you in the solar plexus, you fall, and then
Yeah.
you're patiently waiting for your beating.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
3 dudes jump on you. And
Yeah.
one thing I realized from doing the combatives and being the bad guy, the role player for so long, like I know there's people, but I don't think many people could hold me down.
Yeah.
One person. But I think any average 3 people can kick my ass pretty easy. Because when one leg goes up in the air,
Yeah.
like you're half the fighter at that point.
Yeah.
So you test this stuff.
But the reason why I brought up John Wick is because now you're starting to see people getting into like 3-gun matches and getting really serious, like going because they watch the John Wick and then they watch the training that Keanu
Taryn Butler.
Taryn and I forget. I think he was with one of the Machados for his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
he's a pro belt and under.
He trains.
Is it John Jock?
Dude
or-
seems like a nice guy. Hegan, I think. Or
Oh,
I
I'm sorry. Yeah,
forget.
you're right. Hegan.
But
But there's an
he's-
uptick, right? I mean, like it seems to me that everybody's now talking
and
about.
there's good and bad because then it floods the market with other instructors and for me I always just try to stay positive and just keep trying to I believe in what we do. I believe it works. I had a guy one time come up to me with a group that I train and he said, man, what you showed me saved my life. He goes, I got shot,
Whoa.
but they tried to get me in the van and they couldn't from what you showed me. I mean, look, I get goosebumps. What do you say to that?
That's amazing.
Like, what do you
Yeah.
say to that? So it is something that I really do take great pride in, but you got to test this stuff, and you got to, like I said, keep it real, as they say. So like when I first started, one of the guys came in just to be a student, and he really liked my mindset on real fighting, on self-defense. And, you know, back then I was just a fighter, you know, and I always tell people, like, I was never in the military. I was never law enforcement. I don't act like I was, but I've been in that community for almost 20 years, and I've been able to participate in a lot of the training that the guys do. And, but I've been in a lot of real world fights. I know how the mind reacts. I know what you're capable of. I know what works and doesn't. But I ain't never been in a gunfight. I might piss my pants in the corner. I mean, you know, like, I have a buddy. He's like, nah, he's
real.
like, Chad, you wouldn't do that. If you're a fighter, you're going to fight with a blade. You're going to fight with your gun. And I want to believe that in my heart, but I'm not going to speak articulately on something that I've never done.
Right.
So everything that I've done, I know it works because I'm going to do it to you while you resist. And that, you know, like I always tell people,
that resistance component,
you gotta
that
have
is
it.
huge.
You got to have it. And so for years, that wasn't a part of it. So there was a lot of stuff that wasn't taught. And look, even me, I'm going to be 48 tomorrow, you know.
Happy birthday, man.
Thank you. Yeah, the gray gets more and more every year, but I'm still fighting. Like and when I say I'm fighting daily in training for life, to live longer. I'm no opponent.
For those of you guys that, you know, that aren't seeing Chad like in real life like we are, Chad has probably got the body of like a 26-year-old man.
Yeah, kind of does.
This guy, it looks like Micah came back in here with a beard.
With a beard and a hat on.
It doesn't feel that way when I'm going to bed at night some days, but I appreciate it. And you know, I do love this, and I still try to get out there. My training's not like it used to be. I don't go as hard as I used to. But I still like to get out there because I got to work on my feelers too, and I want to practice what I preach. I do shoot a lot more and do a lot more of that kind of stuff because I am getting older and I have to be realistic with myself. Like, you know, I was playing soccer with one of my nieces, and I went to take off for a ball, and it just didn't look like it did 20 years ago. I thought I would be faster than I was.
That explosion quite wasn't there.
So as far as the weapons that you use, what are your go-to weapons that you train with on a regular basis specifically?
So, and what's funny is, like, and like I said, you got to kind of keep it real, and I kind of have to do that too, because a lot of times when I'm shooting with my guys, we're in a kit, you know, we have my AR, I have my Glock, you know, I have a blade, and I'm in, you know, but the reality is this: if I'm running around in a kit, the wheels have fallen off. Something has gone drastically wrong, right? Like, I tell people all the time, I took this driving course one day, and it was the most realistic course I had ever taken.
Okay.
And the reason being is this: I drive every day. I'm not running around in a kit getting in gunfights, right? So I love doing all that stuff, but then I do a lot of concealed stuff. So that's when I started, okay, I carry my Glock 19, my 43, because, and in a perfect world, so like I like my Glock 19, but I have a 43 because of this. 90% of the time I'm in a pair of board shorts. That's just my life.
So the difference between a 19 is kind of a full size, kind of actually.
It's a mid size, and the 17's the full.
Hold on, don't worry, I'm being safe.
All right, safety's important.
Yeah, please.
Okay. So, for those of you guys, yes, I'm constantly armed, but as you can see, this is a concealed Glock. This is a 26.
Yeah.
So it's a double stack. What he's talking about, and double stack just means that it's thicker, can stack double the rounds. He's talking about a 43, which is single stack, right?
It's a single stack, holds 7, I think.
Way thinner than this.
Doesn't print as much.
Doesn't print as much. You can't tell. The 19, which, man, I love the 19.
That's my go-to.
That's a fantastic.
My favorite. Very versatile. But so here's the thing. So my point is 90% of the time I'm in board shorts.
Right.
So in a perfect world, I would always have a pair of jeans and a belt on or whatever. Yeah. So my holster would be a holster that would attach on your belt. But the problem is I would have to train myself to grab the holster, pull the pistol out. So one of my buddies, I'll plug him. He's a great dude. I went to high school with him. He owns Southern Custom Tactical. And he's like, I told him about this problem. And he said, Chad, I got a solution for you. So he got this, it's a clip that it's plastic, because a lot of them are metal and then they tear up your board shorts, but it's plastic. So you clip it onto your shorts, and now I can just draw and it stays put.
That's a front carry?
I index carry. I like that, you know, and once again, you'll get people out there gun guys are not as bad as knife guys, but it gets a little crazy sometimes where it's like, I carry all the time. I have guns all throughout my house. I'm like, everyone's got to do what's best for them. So I'm not here to tell you what to do.
What's the right way?
And I'm telling you to do what's comfortable for you. Like, so for instance, if you don't like guns, carry a knife. You don't like knives, carry a pen. Like, you don't like pens, you don't want to carry anything, hope it doesn't happen, because that's a course of action. It's just not the one that I want to follow, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
So, everyone's comfort level is different. So for me, I like to index carry. I like to carry my 19 if I have pants on, but I carry the 43 a lot. It's not ideal. And once again, this is a small percentage thing that I would ever need it, but for me, it's better to have it and not need it than go up. It's in my truck, and now I'm screwed.
Now you're screwed. Yep.
So that's all.
Stay right here. I'll be right back.
Yeah. So, and once again, like, I like. I'm a very pro Second Amendment person. My mom is the best. My mom took care of me. My mom gave me everything, but she's very doesn't like guns, and I get that. So I see that side because I know she has a good heart. I just don't agree with the fact and she'll bring up the F word, and when you do that, then we feelings. I feel well. Your feelings don't supersede my right to defend myself.
Right.
So anybody that tells me how, when, and if I'm able to defend myself, that person's not my friend. Because I know, as a self-defense expert, sometimes having a pistol is your best tool.
Right.
But, and I'm not gonna harp too much on this. As far as the gun debate goes, Second Amendment rights, the right to arm yourself and defend yourself the way that you see fit. I'm not proposing that there's any one single solution, but what I do think is that everybody that is very anti-firearm possession should really, really study it and really
know what they're talking about.
Know what they're talking about from your perspective, and like by taking courses from people that have the kind of knowledge that you do, from understanding how law enforcement uses it, the mechanics of it, the engineering that goes into it, all of that stuff. I think a lot of the people that are anti-gun, and this is just me speaking as a person that doesn't personally own any, not because I don't like them or I'm scared of them or
it's
anything.
Just your belief, and that's cool.
Yeah, and but I have the utmost respect for people that own them and are able to use them responsibly and safely.
Yeah,
I think that is
100%.
amazing.
And you need to have an intelligent conversation.
Exactly.
And nowadays, everything is very polarized, and everyone has their talking points.
Oh, boy.
For me, I go into something like, if me and you disagree, you can change my mind, but you must bring facts. You can't just bring feelings. And I relate it, like jiu-jitsu gives you the answer to everything in life. And by that, I mean this. We have a saying, the mat don't lie.
Don't lie.
No.
You could talk all day, but when we shake hands, you're going to know my level, and I'm going to know yours.
Right.
And if I'm better than you, I'm not going to treat you less. And if you're better than me, I wouldn't want you to treat me less, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes to the Second Amendment, though, the problem is the people that they're uneducated, 100%. And look, if you could snap your fingers and get rid of every gun in the world, maybe we could have a talk. But that will never happen.
No, exactly.
It'll never happen.
That's the problem. Is
You can't Thanos the firearms away.
he did. Yeah.
Snap of a finger, brother.
Yeah, but that's not the case because the criminals will always have it. And yes, okay, we're not going to get into that because next
like
thing you know,
said, I just wanted to make sure
That's a whole podcast.
That's a whole-
on the other one.
That's right.
That's a righteous anger podcast.
he's so right. I just told him about righteous anger before we started. I was like, dude, that's my podcast to go on onto
your rants with?
and it's so important. But
what I'll say is this, and I'll bring it back to what we're doing. Jiu-jitsu, it proves, like, there are three types of people. There's a person that you can speak to and articulate to them, and they're going to believe you. Well, that person's kind of naive. They believe anything. And then there's a second type, and that's the kind of we are. You could articulate it, you could explain it, and then you could do it to me live while I'm resisting. Now I get it.
now you get it.
I'm hooked.
Yeah.
But then there's the third person, and that's the karate guy that came in.
Yeah.
I could explain it. I could do it to you over and over. But in your mind, if you just had one more chance, you would have got me.
Yeah.
Ego.
You wouldn't. So I don't worry about that third type.
Yeah.
I focus on the people that get it, that want it, and that know it works. And I constantly thrive to learn new stuff. Like I constantly try to go somewhere every year where people are better than me at a certain range. And we were talking, I say ego is the biggest killer of progress. And it truly is. And I try to lead by that example of, good ego. The good ego's good for the fact that ego is what gets us all to where we're at. It makes us want to be good.
Yeah.
Bad ego is, I don't want to train with those guys because they beat me and then I feel like I'm not that good.
Yeah.
That's a bad ego.
Yeah.
Like I believe in good and evil. One of my favorite quotes is, there could be no freedoms without laws. Like we need laws. No raping, no stealing, no killing. I think there should be stiff penalties for these.
I agree.
I can just argue we have too many laws. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but when it comes to fighting, jiu-jitsu proved that this works. So, and I always tell people, and so I take a different approach now. Instead of like, especially I teach a lot of type A personalities.
Yeah.
So if I come in and just beat people down, they're going to throw up their tribal lines and they're not listening.
Yeah.
I want you to get this because I like you. Whether you like me or not,
Right.
I know if you do this, it's going to make you better.
Right.
But the problem is martial arts are like religion. And this is another podcast,
Oh,
so don't get me
yeah.
started.
So true.
So my point is this. If you could prove to somebody 100% that their religion was not true, it was wrong, it was fake. Not that you could do it, but if you could, are they going to love you or hate you? They're going to hate you. They're going to hate you because what you showed them is what they believed their whole life is totally wrong.
Yeah.
So when you take a guy and you come at him like that, he throws up his tribal lines. So for me, I come at it from the approach of, and I do mean this, I'm just adding to your arsenal, brother. Like you're already a good karate guy, taekwondo guy, that's good.
Yeah.
You understand distance. You know, you got nice footwork, you got good kicks.
Yeah.
But this guy might punch you in the face. So let's talk about this. Or if the guy grabs you, let me show you what an underhook is.
Yeah.
Because that could save your life.
Yeah.
Like, so I try to come in it that way.
You positioned the argument completely differently. I mean, they now, instead of thinking that you're trying to supplant their ego, basically their whole identity, now you're just, no, I'm just adding to it.
Yeah.
I'm making it a little bit better.
It's not a trick, but I'll give you an example. So you'll get some guys in combatives that go, man, this combative stuff, I just shoot the guy. Okay, roger that. Look, I'm fine with you doing that. But I'm telling you, you can't, even if, look, you have to legally be able to and morally. And everyone's is different on that, okay? But what I'm saying is action, it is so much faster than reaction. You know, like I always use the example like act like you're pointing a finger pistol at me. So you're there. I'm here. I have a gun pointing down. When you see me move my gun, you say bang.
Bang.
Bang, right?
Right.
Like one more time. So you're here. When you see me move my hand, you say bang.
Bang.
One more time. I got lucky that time, right? When I move this, you're trying to talk me down. You're pointing a gun at me. Bang.
Bang.
You'll never win.
Holy cow.
Because the reality is this. By the time it takes your brain to go, shit, he's moving his gun, I've already said I'm firing this.
Oh my gosh.
And that's why I say, listen, legally it's wrong to hit first. But if you want to win, you better swing first.
Wow.
I'll give you an example. Once again, when I tell you these stories, these are like 25 years ago. I've been a law-abiding citizen. So what I'm about to tell you is legally not right. But I know I did the right thing. So I'm in college, and I'm working the door, and we had to tell this guy to leave. We didn't hurt him. We didn't carry him out. We walked him out and said, hey, man, just come back another night. He was wasted, right? He's like, I'm coming back and whooping y'all's ass. You know, if you had a nickel for every time somebody said they would come back and whoop your ass and shoot you. The problem is sometimes it does happen, but normally not. So the guy leaves. And 15 minutes go by. I'm out front sitting on the stool. This is in Radford. I went to school at Radford.
Okay.
Down in Blacksburg.
Down in Blacksburg. You know, it's by Blacksburg. And so I look up and I'm like, oh shit. So it was that dude and a real big guy and like a wife beater and another guy. So there was 3 guys coming at me.
Oh boy.
And I look around and all my other help was like talking to girls inside or something, right?
Come on.
So I'm like, son of a gun. So I hear the big guy going, is this the guy that, you know, kicked you out? We're going to kick his ass. So I stood up. Now, once again, I know legally this was wrong, but I know from growing up where I did, if I was going to survive, this is what was going to happen.
Law of the jungle.
So as they came up, they started to come around. And I knew, like there's a skill called verbal judo, which is a great skill to have. You got to be able to de-escalate and stuff.
Yeah.
But there was no de-escalating. It was 1:30 at night. These guys were hammered drunk. So he's like, "Is this the guy?" And he got like within 3 feet of me, and I just went crack, crack, cross hook, give him 2-piece. The guy dropped. Right now, I looked at the other guys. Whew, they ran.
Gone.
So my point is, I knew that was the alpha that they looked up to.
Yeah.
So I knew I had to take care of that problem first, and then I could deal with the other problems. Now, did I take a combatives course to learn that? No, that's just from growing up in a bad area where if somebody doesn't like you and you don't like them and you're standing in front, you better
It's
swing
on.
or duck.
Yeah.
Because there's no pushing.
Yeah.
That might have saved your life if they were wasted.
Well,
you know,
never know.
Who knows?
Like I said, maybe it did, maybe it didn't. People at home be like, "Oh, you shouldn't have hit the guy. You weren't there."
You don't know.
Yeah.
So, anyways, they left. It was good. Like,
What happened to the guy?
no charges pressed. He stumbled up. I was like, "All right, guys, get on out of here." And then he kind of like, "Okay, man, sorry." Most people, when you punch them in the nose and their nose breaks and they see blood and their eyes
start
water,
bleeding.
they're not as tough as they once were before.
Mike Tyson. Everybody's got a plan until they get
punched
pinched in the face.
Yep.
Yeah, so, and like I said, like, and that comes back to jiu-jitsu. You know, and there's a saying, and like, I'm a jiu-jitsu guy, but you know, they say, oh, you punch a black belt once, he's a brown belt twice, he's a purple belt. It's Striker's favorite saying, right? But and it's funny, but that's not me, and that's not my guys.
And as a
that's
striker,
what I don't
we
ever want.
I don't teach that kind of.
We don't.
Even to my
condone
MMA guys, like we don't do that.
So, but
not
as a
cool.
good example, I had an MMA fighter. He was a blue belt. And once again, people come, you're going to learn self-defense jiu-jitsu. You're going to learn how to defend punch. You're going to learn how to defend headlocks. But you're going to do what you like the most. So, like, for instance, a lot of people like the sport. So they're berimboloing. I like learning all that stuff. Imanari. I like doing all that. I'm all old and injured, but I still think it's cool, but it's not my game. Like, my game is self-defense based, butterfly guard, kimuras, guillotines, because I want to end the situation.
Right.
And a strangulation is the closest Jack Bauer neck break there is. Like, you're dead if you want that person dead.
Right.
Like, them tapping is saying, thank you for not killing me.
Right.
So it translates well into real scenarios. But, so anyways, so my blue belt was rolling with one of my brown belts who was a pretty much straight sport guy. He just liked the sport. And if they were grappling in a gi match, the brown belt would eat his lunch. But if I let the blue belt punch, he would beat the brown belt. Because, and there's this is old school, but like, Herberto, I want to say it was Herberto Travin fought Frank Mir. And Herberto Travin was like, world champion. Like, everyone's like, he's going to kill Frank Mir. But Frank Mir was a really good grappler, and he came out and he was punching. And, you know, when people punch you in the face, if you're not used to it, you do weird stuff. You know, it's like in Thai boxing.
Yeah.
How many people look awesome on the mitts, but then you put them to spar and they start doing like this.
Absolutely.
They look like NBA basketball players
Yeah.
who are horrible fighters, but they're just ginormous, right?
Yeah.
But they lean back and they reach, which is the worst thing.
Yeah.
You know, you want to slip in, come up, you know, but it takes time to do that. And you've got to get used to punches coming at you.
Yes.
And like when you see a guy in a scenario get taken down, I can look in your eyes and tell if you've been there before.
Yeah.
And then if you haven't, you know what you start doing? You're drowning in that lake.
Yeah.
And then you make bad decisions.
Yep.
So back to the original thing of, okay, a guy comes in the room and says, I'm going to shoot a guy. Okay, so instead of me telling you no, I'm going to let you come up with the answer on your own. You know what? Let's do that. Let's run the scenario. We run the scenario 5 times. He can't get one shot off. Now he gets it. He came up with the answer. I didn't come up with the answer. I just run the scenarios. I just want to get you to, I want to get people to ask questions. I want to get you to think. So like when you come to my class, I say, look, this is a course. Course is where you learn material. Yep. Training is where you master the material. So I want to get you to understand this is an important, because I look at like it sounds cheesy, but it's true. Like an operator is like a modern day samurai. So back in the old days, you see a samurai sword collection, you had a long katana, you had the middle, and then you had the dagger.
Yep.
Well, they were real fighters, and each tool served a purpose, and it was a
100%.
ranged base. So my long katana is my distance weapon, but if you grab me, I can't use it. So I need to switch to a shorter range weapon.
The wakizashi.
Yeah. So now you have a modern operator who has his M4. That's his distance. This is his best tool. But if you turn a corner and somebody grabs you, well, I can't. If I continue to hold this, I'm a one-legged dude in an ass-kicking contest. And now you have access to my other tools.
Yeah.
So now I need to let go of that, make a frame, switch to a shorter range distance. Oh, you grab that, boom. Now you mounted on me. Now I can't get to my rifle. I can't get to my pistol, but I got my edge weapon close to where I can get to it with either hand to create space to get to another tool. So every tool serves a purpose. Every martial art is good for what it was made for. And I don't know if this is true, but I always heard, like, you know, Taekwondo was invented during the Korean, like every country's had a civil war to kick people off a horse.
Horses, yeah.
I don't know if that's true, but my point is a lot of fancy kicks, and it looks cool, and it's not. Some martial arts are better than others for self-defense.
Sure.
So while every martial art is good for what it was made for, some rank higher percentage-wise for what would really work. And I'll even bust on my style, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. That's made for two dudes fighting in a beach, you know, about, you know, testing their honor. But I live in America, and there are no fair fights. I don't want to take some dude on the to the ground, and his buddy starts football kicking me.
Yeah.
But the better I am at Jiu-Jitsu and wrestling, the less his buddy will grab me.
Yeah.
Right? And then I
Absolutely.
can get to my range where I can get a nice clinch. So, you know, that's the fun part about it. And that's why I think I like it, because I love the guys. They're all good people. I know they're in bad places. And it's like jiu-jitsu. It always keeps you into it. It's like a black belt now. Like I have a dozen black belts. And yesterday I became a jiu-jitsu grandfather. One of my black belts promoted his first black belt.
Oh, wow.
And it was a great thing because the kid, he's not a kid, but he couldn't be a nicer person.
Yeah.
And the guy he promoted seems like he's following in that same, like I always tell people, you could be a great grappler, but not be a great martial artist.
Right.
You could be a great grappler and a piece of shit human being. And for me, like at our school, ranks based on 4 criteria: attitude, attendance, performance, and knowledge. Attitude is the first, not by, you know, coincidence. You know, I always tell people, like, be kind, be nice, be polite to people. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu isn't like traditional martial arts where it's bow, senior, soon. I like that part of it, but it got to taken advantage of. It became kind of cultish, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and we were kind of anti that.
Yeah.
But now at my school, I believe in the Bushido code. I believe in respect, discipline, honor.
Yeah.
So you must do that. But I don't make you mop the mats. But I always tell people, like, yeah, you're paying for a service. But you know what, man? There's so much more that goes into it. Like I said, like, you know, I could call Jacare, Henzo, Matt, you know, these, you know, Dala, Lloyd, I could call these guys and I have a good relationship with them to this day. I moved around and stuff, but these guys gave me a life.
Yeah.
Like, holy cow, if I can't respect them, how am I going to respect anybody?
Right.
These guys took time to make me a better person.
Yeah.
So I try to give that back now and lead by that example. You know, when you walk into martial arts school, there's no screening process. Sometimes you're going to get knuckleheads. And my job is to try to help them. Like, even if you know they're a knucklehead, you know, like, even when I look back at me, I grew up poor. I didn't have good role models. I had no direction. And, you know, what's funny was, you know, when I started hanging out with the military and law enforcement, and that's when I found my people, and the fact that, I mean this, like, MMA guys, military and law enforcement guys, they all kind of cut from the same breed. Like, I don't like in a fight when they call it a war. Like, to me, that's exclusive for people that are fighting for their life with weapons. Like, I don't act like them. They have the hard job.
Right.
But I was a fighter, and it is a fight, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can get hurt, but nobody's shooting at you. You know what I mean? That's why I tell, like, my grappling, I'm like, man, don't be nervous. It's not a fight. Like, it's just a grappling match. Have fun, man,
Yeah.
right? So, but this kind of stuff is important, man. And it's kind of, it's everything kind of goes, it's kind of like left, right. You know, like we all go too far to one side.
Oh.
So it's kind of coming back to where, you know, for me at my school, everyone's different, but I want you to have a good character. All my black belts are good people. You know, I can name hundreds of things that they've done to help other people and to give back. Like, that is important to me. And that's what I try to do, and I try to lead by example. I'm not a perfect person,
Right.
but you try your best, and I
Yeah.
know you do the same. You seem
Absolutely.
like I just met. You seem like a great dude.
Oh, thank you. I
You know,
appreciate
so I haven't made a decision on him.
Nah,
yet.
well, the jury's out still for a lot of people. Hey, you know, that reminds me of Marcelo
Garcia?
Garcia. I forget the exact situation, but apparently one of his guys was being disrespectful on Twitter or something, and he told him to stop it.
Dylan Danis guy.
Yeah, what do you think about that situation? What would you do? Would you kick the guy out of your affiliation? And
Man, the problem is this. Like I said, there's no screening process, and you know, sometimes you don't know people until you give them a black belt. Like, you know, they can. It's kind of like you know, you don't know a girl till you live with her or marry her.
Yeah.
You know, people can kind of hide. So what I try to do is lead by good example. And there's so much good stuff that you get out of martial arts. Yeah, there are bad stuff when you run a school, and you know, there's bad stuff you have to deal with. But I don't focus on that negativity because it don't do no good. Some people are just, they're going to be selfish. But you know what? I know they're not happy.
Right.
Like, I look myself in the mirror. Like I said, I've been living in this area for almost 50 years. You're not going to find somebody that says I ever dick them, or, you know, to me, my character is everything. It's the one thing I try to teach my daughter. Money is great.
That'll come and go.
It allows you to
Promise.
do stuff.
It's just a tool.
It gives you freedom.
Right.
And I'm a big fan of freedom. Like,
Yeah.
it allows you to
Libertarian,
do-
right?
Yeah, you know, it allows you to do what you want to do, but it's not who you are. And don't ever give up your character for money. You know, and you know, martial arts school owners, most of them, like me, I have 3-range combatives. You know, most martial arts school owners have another job. They do it because they love to do it.
right.
You know, yeah, it's a business, but they do it because they enjoy doing it. So, you know, for me, I just try to keep things positive because,
I can see that.
you know, what else you going to do?
Well, you're not going to live a good life if you don't. So
Yeah.
And Henzo's a great example of that. Like,
yeah.
He really is, man. Like, he's just a great dude, man. And, you know, he's always sharing. I'll give you an example. When we were at Henzo, so I would be invited to these, like, closed door. It'd be like me, Henzo, Matt, Rodrigo Gracie. And it was when Henzo was going to fight Sakuraba. And
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, oh, man. Like, so Henzo would need a time to train on his own. It would be focused on him because he was at the school. Henzo's a figure. People just want to talk to him. You know, he lights up the room. So we would have these good training sessions, and I was just grappling dummy, but I felt very honored to be invited. And I remember one day we're there, and Henzo was like, so I've been studying Sakuraba. I'm going to do this technique. And I'm like, oh, we're getting like the secret technique. And I'm like, this is awesome. I go to class that night. He showed that technique, and I'm like, I didn't even get one day to try it.
Yeah.
But that's Henzo, man. And Henzo told me one time, he goes, wherever you go, show everybody everything. Because the better you get them, the better they make you.
Yeah.
So I've always tried to live by that.
Absolutely.
Like, you know, share that wealth. You can't take it with you. Pat Trey's a great example of that. He's just a great human being. The guy is like, I mean, he's the man in everything, in all disciplines.
Absolutely, 100% respectful guy. Just always very cool to us whenever we see him at fights.
Yeah.
Whether we're fighting his guys or not, always respectful, always cool to everybody that he interacts with.
And we grew up in Woodbridge, and he had a school, but I was always affiliated, with, Henzo, Jacare, Lord, and, Dala. So, but we were always friends, and he was always welcoming. To this day, I go there, he teaches me Kali. He won't take no money from me.
Wow.
Like, he's just a good dude, man. Like, he really is. So, you meet a lot of cool people along the way.
Well, you certainly did. Holy cow. I mean, just the stories and the names affiliated with the stories. I mean,
it is amazing.
That's insane. I mean, me growing up in this area and sort of seeing those names in magazines, inside karate, inside kung fu, and
watching them
watching
fight,
on TV. He mentions the Sakuraba. Oh yeah, I was there. Oh my gosh, come on, that's history, man. That's important history to us. We hit the end of the show. I feel like we could go on for another 3, man.
You're right. That did go by fast.
But I just want to, man. First of all, I mean, I'll say it again. I just want to thank you, Chad, for coming out here, driving up and being, just giving us all this history and what you've been doing, and then thank you also for the stuff that you're doing right now for the operators and the normal Joes. and Janes out there that need to protect themselves, and giving them that way. I like to end the show with you kind of just talking about what you're doing and plugging whatever you're doing. So this is your time. What's going on? What should we be looking? What should our people be looking out for?
If you guys have any fights coming up, any events that you're hosting, things like that, definitely, and definitely everything about your academy.
Kind of a low key guy, but so we do have the lab. Mixed martial arts down in Fredericksburg, and like I said, that's where we train civilians, and we teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, mixed martial arts. We have fitness classes. We have great kids program. I think the kids are the future. I got a great kids program instructor named Mel that runs it. Just a sweetheart of a guy. We got 12 instructors down there. We do instructor certification programs. So I know, like, I got to go out of country pretty shortly, and I'll be gone for 3 weeks. So it's nice to be able to leave. My wife is awesome. Without her, like, I couldn't keep the business running. She's the brains behind the operation.
That's awesome.
And so she does a great job helping out when I'm not around. And then 3 Range Combatives, the number 3 rangecombatives.com. That's our website for that. And that's our military and our law enforcement training. And, that keeps me really busy, and it's something I like. So if there's departments out there that want training, like I said, we teach assaulter-based courses with the kid. We also teach, like I said, escape and evade classes. We teach force-on-force classes. One big thing we're working on now is, like, say you have a pistol, I have a pistol. We're sitting right here. You go to draw your pistol. What distance would it be better for me to go for your gun, or would it be better to get cover and go for my gun? And everybody's different. Like, so for me, it might be 6-7 feet, but hey, if you're younger and stronger, maybe you can close the distance faster. But how do you know that? Well, you test it. Like, you test it. Like,
run the scenario.
Run it. Like the 21-foot rule. Run it. Like, people hear this stuff, but then they don't test it. So we work a lot of, like, force-on-force, airsoft, simunitions, and we run these scenarios, and that gives the operator the confidence that I've been here before, I know what to do. And then we have the Operation Blue Belt, which would be for normal police departments and things like that. And people are getting more educated on it, which is a good thing. Man, I really think, as my fighters, I'm busy, and, we have some great fighters at our gym, and that's 90% of our people don't compete, but the ones that do, we do very well. I was just saying, Cedric Gunnison is probably one of the sweetest, hardest guys you'll ever know. And he came in, and, when people come in, they say they want to be a fighter, I step back for a sec, and I see if he's going to do what he needs to be doing, because a lot of people do this.
Yeah,
I know
absolutely.
You've seen it a million
100%.
times. So he did the work. He's 6-0, 7-0. He's turning pro. I think we're going to get him on the Shogun with John Rollo, who was up at Henzo's when we were up there. And he's a great guy, but we'd like to get him on there for his first pro show. Very well-rounded. Ryan Patterson's also undefeated. Ryan, dude, he's awesome. I mean, he's very entertaining, great to watch. Just represented Team Virginia very well. So I think he's looking to have another fight at Cagezilla, and then he's probably going to want to go pro. But then we got guys like, Mark America there, who just, guys coming up that they're tough and they're still training. And, being a fighter, it's a tough life, man. You got to get your bills, like, you got to pay your bills.
Absolutely.
It's one of those things I always tell people, don't fight because you think it's cool. Do it because you love to do it. You want to get girls, man, lift weights and play the guitar. It's not, your ears get jacked up, you get beat up. It's not for everybody. But for the guys that do it, that was me, and I have that passion to want to help them. But I tell them the truth. I said, man, being in the UFC, you got a better chance of being an NFL athlete. Think about the people that are really making money. Like, we know guys, Mike Easton was a great fighter.
Yeah.
You get 12 to show, 12 to win.
Yeah.
You don't make the money that you think.
Yeah.
And it's a hard thing, man.
It really is.
It ain't for the money.
It
No.
really can't be.
You do it because you love it.
Yeah. It was
So-
funny, though, when you said lift weights and play the guitar. I was like, oh, man, I should hit the weight. Nah, I still like Muay Thai. We're good. We're good.
You're already pretty, though. You don't need to worry
Oh, I
about
appreciate that.
From his mouth to God's ears, let me tell you. Chad, thank you so much
Yeah,
for coming
no
on the show,
worries,
man.
man. Yeah.
And you don't be a stranger. We're definitely going to want to have your guys on here as well. Have you in the future coming back on, and then we'll be following you.
Yeah.
Everybody on the there we go. Everybody on the internets out there, you guys definitely check this guy out and see what he's doing. Again, Combatives.com. Of course, the Lab MMA in Fredericksburg. Check them out. If you happen to be in that area, get that training. Be like Chad and go train with the best. If you're not in that area, then just go. I'm sure you guys have people that come in, and they want to get some knowledge, some training. That this is the place to do it. So, thank you again for coming on.
No worries, brother. Thank you.
And thank you, crew, Paul, for being on the show again.
And cop.
Guys, you see what we're doing, man. This is really important that if you guys watch this, if you enjoy it, that you share it and you let people know the work that we're doing, the people that we're bringing on. This is quality people that you want to know about, that you want to follow. And of course, I mean, all the jewels that were dropped today. I mean, go back and watch the show again, man. You're going to get some knowledge. Every time you watch, it's going to be something different. So definitely do that. And again, if you guys want to know more about the Fight Game Podcast, you can go to thefightgamepodcast.com. You can go to Patreon if you want to become a patron. Whatever you guys want to support us with, we absolutely welcome. We'll keep doing the shows even if you don't. So don't worry about that. But if you do want to support, it's patreon.com/Fight Game Podcast. And of course, we're all over the interweb. So if you see us, like us, subscribe, and that whole nine. And again, thank you guys for watching. All right? Peace out.